I thought I just froze there. Hello, everyone. How are you? Hope you're having an amazing, amazing day, and may peace be upon you. If you can give me a couple of seconds, I'm just going to add my beautiful friend, Caroline Labor. We have an amazing, amazing guest today who is an awesome, awesome money coach, and she was going to be talking about the top 3 proven strategies to stay out of debt permanently. Hello, Linda. How are you? You're up early. Okay, let me just quickly invite Caroline. There you go to join me up. Hi, people. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Gonna bring Caroline up. If you're catching this live, press 1. If you're catching me on the replay, type in 2. If you're new to this, type in 3. Hello, Caroline. How are you? How are you? So great to have you over. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Izdihar. My pleasure. Thanks very much for inviting me. It's great to be on your live this
Thank
morning.
you. Yeah, and we've got Linda here too. She's like, yes, I'm up at 6 a.m. She's joining me from Australia too. Thank you for joining. Hi, Monica.
Oh, go Linda.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So, um, Caroline, it's an amazing opportunity for us to be talking about because we're both kind of in the same space of money
Mhm.
coaching and financial coaching. So people thought we're gonna be like cats with each other, like kind of like like no kind of thing. Yeah, definitely an Aussie, Linda. So I'm like bringing all the Aussies to America now. So it's like an amazing
Woohoo!
amazing opportunity for us to be talking together and just kind of create a space, right, Caroline, that what's possible between people of the same coach. So why don't you tell our viewers today a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do?
Sure, I'd love to. So great to be with you all, everyone. Thanks for joining. So, look, a little bit about my background. So, as Izdihar mentioned, we are working in a very similar
Mm-hmm.
space, and just decided to give you double the value this morning. So it's
Yes.
great to be on Izdihar's live feed.
Mm-hmm.
So just a sort of quick bit of background about me. So my background, well, it's sort of mixed.
Mm.
I actually have been in corporate for the last 17 years,
Wow.
but working in
Mm.
finance. So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
CPA, but I did a lot of, so ran budgets for big companies, did a lot of
Awesome.
financial management in that
Mm-hmm.
space, but largely coached a lot of financial analysts as well around
Mm.
empowerment and what was stopping
Mm-hmm.
them from getting
Mm-hmm.
ahead. So interestingly, in parallel, I was always running different businesses as
Mm.
well. So I had a catering business,
Wow.
did internet marketing, had a
Right.
band, like had a lot of side hustles.
Wow.
And so
Amazing.
was very interested in, what it takes to be successful in two sort of very different
Mm-hmm.
spaces. And what I found is that there's this common theme of money
Mm.
blocks. And if you've got blocks around either attracting
Mm-hmm.
money into your life or more
Absolutely.
importantly, being able to keep money,
Yes.
then it stops you everywhere. It doesn't actually matter where you come from or
Absolutely.
what it is that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. If you don't deal with those blocks, then it really prevents you from propelling your
Mm-hmm.
success forward. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where I decided to specialize my efforts because I sort
Absolutely.
of liked the numbers bit, loved the
Mm-hmm.
coaching, and went, well, you know what? Let's bring those two together. And yeah, here I am.
Exactly. Here you are. And oh my God, you were in a band and a catering at the same time. What? I didn't know you could. I didn't know, like, what do you play? Do you play the drama or were you the singer? Can you give us a preview or something?
uh, a bit of a preview. Yeah, so I sing in a band, just something we do for fun. So
Wow.
I'm in a band called The Delight. So I've been in a few bands over time, but that's the current one. And we
Amazing.
do, yeah, just weddings, parties, yeah, a bit of fun. So that's my
Amazing.
creative
Okay,
outlet.
for those of you who don't know, we're probably gonna sing after this and just surprise you, okay? Like Caroline will
Yeah,
be
for sure.
do that. So
Live karaoke.
exactly karaoke. And here's the thing, like getting back to the topic, Caroline, debt. It's pretty serious, whether you're in Australia, in America, or Malaysia, or anywhere in the world. Like it's a crippling thing. It's totally like a crippling thing with debt. Um, can you tell us, Caroline, a little bit from your experience, like how did people, I mean, why do people go into debt in the first place? What was the thing that kind of like, okay, the first thing of debt, like what was kind of like making them go into debt?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. I mean, look,
Mm,
I suppose the origin of
mm,
why individual people go into
mm-hmm.
debt, like I think we can tend to focus on the tactical reasons.
Right.
So sort of I had to buy this or I did this course
Yes.
or something triggered
Mm-hmm.
somebody to get into debt.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've found is that usually in all of those
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, there was some kind of fear or panic around money.
Mm,
And
mm.
people did it maybe in a moment of excitement.
Right.
But I think, what sets it apart is there are people who go into debt, but, they've got a clear strategy and a
Mm-hmm.
plan, and they're unaffected by the fact that, say, they bought a $2,000 course on a credit
Right.
card, but within the month, they knew they were going to pay that off and they've done
Right.
that.
Exactly.
But then there's the kind of debt where you go
Mm-hmm.
in, but you're hoping something's going to
Mm-hmm.
work for you to be able to pay
Mm-hmm.
that off, but then that doesn't quite work
Yes.
out. So maybe you get another
Mm-hmm.
course, maybe you get some more
Mm-hmm.
help, and before you know it, it's compounding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I draw that distinction because I think the difference between the two is
Mm.
in the first scenario, someone's going into that transaction without
Right.
necessarily that element of fear and
Mm.
panic, like they're doing it from a neutral
Right.
space.
They're in
Whereas
control
in
of
the
it,
second
basically.
scenario,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
exactly, in control. Whereas if I think you go in and there is all of that fear, actually what it means is you're bringing in a lot of your past into that
Mm.
transaction.
Mm.
Like there are things already going on that
Yes.
when you get into debt for the first time, you enter a cycle that
Exactly.
then starts to
Mm-hmm.
compound. Is that the experience you've had as
Yeah,
well?
absolutely. It just starts to multiply things into like deeper and deeper because like money is just a magnifying glass of, of who we are around
Yes.
money. And as people think that the more money you get, the more they're gonna they're gonna be okay, right? But it's actually not. The more money they get, the more it's gonna go away. It's gone. They start to spending more. So this is actually like a devastating crisis. And the thing is, once they know they have a debt,
Mm.
okay, I'm gonna say $5,000, 5,000. But then again, Caroline, why do they not clear it off? But they keep on topping it and topping it and topping it. Why is that happening, Caroline? When they know they can see the statement. I hope they actually look at the statement at least in a blink, But
Yes.
why they keep on topping it up, topping it up, topping it up to the point that it's like there is suffocating them, Caroline.
Yeah, look, what I've
Mm.
found is, Dahar, is that it's because of the intensity of the emotions that start to
Mm.
surround that
Mm.
debt. And predominantly, the one that is really
Mm-hmm.
crippling is that it starts to bring up shame and
Mm.
guilt.
Mm.
So not everyone necessarily resonates with the word shame, but you can
Yes.
use embarrassment
Mm-hmm.
instead. It starts to become this thing that you can't tell anyone that you've got this
Yes.
debt because, that's
Mm-hmm.
humiliating. And
Mm-hmm.
when it's only a few thousand
Mm-hmm.
dollars, it's probably something you think you're going to pay off
Exactly.
really quickly. But it's so easy for five to compound into 10 and then become
Absolutely.
20. And it just, you become like the
Mm-hmm.
hamster on the
Mm-hmm.
wheel, really trying to think of how can I make this go
Mm-hmm.
away. But one of the most negative things about
Mm-hmm.
debt and the reason it's so painful for people is
Mm.
that every transaction you go into with money after that
Mm-hmm.
is a reminder that you've got this debt.
Mm.
Like when you
Mm-hmm.
go to hand over that credit card,
Right.
you've got that
Mm-hmm.
debt. When you get paid, you've got to pay back that
Mm-hmm.
debt.
Mm-hmm.
So all of it is a constant
Mm-hmm.
reminder. And I think the reason sometimes it compounds for
Mm-hmm.
people is, and it might sound, weird or
Right.
counterintuitive,
Right.
but, we do all sorts of things when we're panicking.
Mm-hmm.
And some people actually try to spend their way out of debt,
Right. Right.
which sounds silly,
Mm-hmm.
but it's almost that thing of the release of, hang on, if I just buy this next thing, or,
Yes.
do this next thing, or
Mm-hmm.
give myself a break
Mm-hmm.
and reward myself,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to clear my mind and get out of debt.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it's not the right kind of release.
Mm.
It just compounds the problem.
Exactly. It just compounds the problem. And
Um,
I really love when you touch about
yeah,
emotion. Emotion is what triggers people when they're spending and everything. And like you said so beautifully, it's like the fear or the embarrassment or the shame or the guilt. It's kind of like covering up,
mm-hmm.
right, Caroline? Like you're spending it just to cover up
Yep,
those things underneath. That's what's truly not being dealt with in a way. It's kind of like a stress reliever or something. That's why it's like, I don't know if you see it, Caroline, but it just keeps on adding up. And with that stuff going on, it's like a never
yep.
ending cycle, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Mm,
well, look, what's really interesting about it is that, those
mm,
emotions like the fear, the guilt,
yes.
like the shame,
Mm-hmm,
The thing people don't realize is those emotions were actually there first.
Mm,
So getting into debt is
absolutely.
an outlet
Absolutely.
to deal with stuff that's already
Mm-hmm.
been sitting there. And that's why it's so hard to break out
Mm,
of, because people don't even know that's what's driving
mm-hmm.
them. And so until you deal with that
Mm-hmm.
part, it can be really hard
Mm.
to just say, well, isn't it simple? Here's your
Yeah,
statement, pay it off, or put,
exactly.
put
It
some
is
money
that
towards
simple,
it.
right? Like
But all
technically
this
it is
stuff
that
going
simple.
on. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful because it's actually that simple, Caroline. I totally agree with it. It's just basically you just need to pay off the amount. That's it. Put some money in, pay off the amount, and then you're gonna be done within, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 years or something. But when they use it as an outlet, Caroline, tell me more about that. When they're using the credit card as an outlet or debt as an outlet to that emotion. Could you expand a little more or see in your experience why is that so devastating and crushing? Because until they deal with the emotions, would you say that they wouldn't be able to break free of that debt?
Look, technically it's possible.
Mm.
Like, some people earn enough that, maybe their next
Mm-hmm.
paycheck is enough
Mm-hmm.
to pay that off.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that you want to catch
Mm.
is that because, as I mentioned, the emotions were there
Exactly.
first, what happens is people repeat the
Mm.
cycle. And then if the first round wasn't painful enough, because you're trying to find a way
Mm.
to sort of deal with
Mm-hmm.
this stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's been hanging around for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, then what I usually see happen is that people in their next round of getting into debt,
Yes,
they up the ante, they go even further. So that 5 might become 10 in one hit,
exactly.
just to make the problem, more painful.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question about, I suppose the impact of not dealing with the
Mm-hmm.
emotions or how they're there
Mm-hmm.
in the first
Mm-hmm.
place, it's not really something we're ever taught to delve into. It's just
Totally.
one of these things that almost just comes up and bites you in the backside at some
Mm.
point in your
Mm-hmm.
life, and you didn't even know you had these things to deal
Yes.
with. But, even though it's a horrible
Mm-hmm.
situation, it's an opportunity, and in its own way, it's a
Mm-hmm.
gift to say, hey, I've got this stuff
Mm-hmm.
going on, that I need to deal
Mm-hmm.
with. And the thing is, for most people, it's not necessarily that you had
Yeah.
some, huge trauma that has caused this
Right.
even. It's just some negative interaction you
Mm-hmm.
had with money at
Mm-hmm.
some point that left an impression on
Mm-hmm.
you and has just been flowing through your nervous system. And
Mm.
you don't even realize it, but you have felt negatively about
Mm-hmm.
money for a
Mm-hmm.
while. And then here's an opportunity to, oh, wow,
Exactly.
I've got sort of this extra money. It might be a new
Yes.
way to
Mm-hmm.
experience money. And bang, our demons come out
Yeah.
like in this new credit card. So
Exactly. It's just
yeah,
so
a lot of
funny.
it is to do with older issues.
Right. The issues and that. And I love when you say that, it's like the emotion was there before and so critical, like, because people just look at the results, right, Carolyn? They just look at the numbers and just
Yeah.
fixing the numbers,
Yes.
but not actually fixing the root of things, which is what is causing that. And that's what, would you say that's
Yeah.
one of the things that kind of like making people coming back to that again once, let's say they clear it off because they got a bonus or something, they
Yes.
cleared it off, but because of the
Yeah.
emotion that is there, whatever it is, guilt, fear, embarrassment, shame, unloved, not feeling worthy, is that one of the
Yeah.
reasons why they keep on using that? Like some people use like food as a way to kind of be,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, food or like alcohol, whatever it is. Exactly,
Addictions or
addiction and all that.
yeah.
So is money kind of like that, Caroline?
Yeah, look,
Mm.
in my experience, I think it's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that the emotions were there
Mm-hmm.
first and you've given yourself a way to,
Exactly. To release
give
that.
this stuff a chance to release itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but look, what makes it even worse, I think, is that yes, you had these
Mm-hmm.
emotions there and now you're
Yes.
experiencing them and, they're going at full
Mm-hmm.
speed, but also we then attach a further meaning to it.
Mm.
And you're not only feeling guilty and feeling
Mm-hmm.
shameful, feeling
Mm-hmm.
embarrassed, you start to say to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is me. Like, I'm an idiot.
Mm.
The
Mm-hmm.
stupid person who got into debt.
Yes.
Like, I'm no good at
Mm-hmm.
anything. And we take those feelings and turn them into something about us,
Mm-hmm.
which is where the real damage gets caused.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you start to say, well, it's me, I'm no good,
Right.
then you become the no good person who continues to get into debt or stay in debt.
Exactly. So it's kind of like continuing again and again. It's like a vicious
Mm,
cycle of just that emotion or
absolutely.
negative thought or feeling that we have about ourselves. Just if you don't take control of it, it can just easily go down and down and worse, and God forbid, bankruptcy and so on, right? Like coming back up from that. So then again, Caroline, we know that this is an issue, a huge issue. We know what's causing
Yes.
it, the underlying thing, which is the emotion, negative emotion. We know the impact that it has and the results that people tend to kind of like coming back to it again if you're not dealing with it. So what would be the solution to this, Caroline? What would be the solution to people? I know it's like a big thing, but if you were to tell them, what is there any hope, first of all? Because they get scared. They're scared when they're dealing with that. They're like suffocating, they're crying, they don't see any way out, they feel guilty. Like, is there hope coming out of it, even though like, you're like 20, 30, 40, 50K in debt? Is there any hope, first of all?
Look, 100%. Like, that's the first thing that I'll say to people. And I'm not just saying that from a theoretical perspective. Like, I've been there personally. Like, I've been in small amounts of debt and I've been in crazy amounts of debt. And what's really interesting about the two is that it might be hard to believe because it's such a personal experience, but the actual amount is irrelevant. It's the feeling it generates and the thoughts that it triggers, like about your self-worth, that actually matters. Because, someone being in $5,000 of debt feels as awful as someone in $100,000 of debt. Like, the amount is usually just relative to your income, actually. And you find a way to make it as painful on that scale. So, I have been in like those amounts of debt and I have gotten out of those amounts of debt, but it's only after really understanding, what the source of that problem is and dealing with those issues that you can sort of, break your way through it. So 100% there is hope. It is totally possible. And, as we said before, there are very practical strategies to get out of debt. So like what I'll do is I'll give you I suppose my top three nuggets. And obviously this is a really in-depth topic as well. I could talk a lot more about these in detail, but, just to give people a bit of a teaser for now, I'm sort of going to summarize them in kind of three key areas that, we could go a lot deeper on probably in a separate session. But look, the first one I will say, and this might sound quite basic, but I think step one is you have to actually acknowledge and own the problem. Like, until you can admit to yourself that there is a problem, you can either see it as something that's just happened to you, like sort of avoidance, or you can hate yourself so much that you can't even face dealing with it. And so you've got to go, you know what, there is a problem.
Acknowledging it.
When I say acknowledging it, I don't mean beating yourself up. I mean saying, okay, here's my credit card statement. I have X amount of debt, like let's call it out as a number. And, actually asking yourself things like, well, how long has this been happening? Like, am I, reviewing my expenses each month that come through? Because one thing that catches people out a lot of the time is you get this statement and you're like, there is no way in the world that I spent $3,000 this month. Like, these items don't add up to $3,000. Like, I know that's happened to me. You're looking at them going, at a glance, there's no way this adds to that number. But if you actually took the time to type out these amounts in a spreadsheet, you would see that they add up.
Exactly.
And
that
so
number.
it's actually going, and so it's actually saying it's the sum of my expense habits that led to this problem. And just owning it on a sort of technical or scientific level. So I think that's really step one.
Beautiful.
And then starting to say, okay, well, what behaviors and what habits have caused this? Like, what things did I buy? Because you can stop buying those things in the future. Like, you can cancel a subscription. You can stop the individual things that are causing that. So that's kind of step one. So I'd say acknowledge and own the problem. Step two, which is the biggest chunk, I would say, is starting to release those negative emotions and thoughts around it. Because that's the killer. If you don't deal with this stuff, you're not going to permanently deal with the problem. Like, it'll come back, guaranteed, it'll come back and bite you later, and a lot worse, because you wouldn't have felt the full impact of the pain. And so, the big thing that I say to people is have some compassion for yourself in this area and learn to separate the fact that, yes, there's a problem, but the debt is not you. You are not the debt. It's a problem, like a situation that you're responsible for, you got yourself into, but it doesn't define you as a person. So you're a person who can get out of this, but you've got to start having that little bit of compassion. And if you are feeling, completely suffocated, like one of the techniques that I teach is a tool called
Mm-hmm.
tapping. And, you know, we won't go into a full-blown
Of
session of
course. Mm-hmm.
tapping today, but just to shortcut it for people, like I say to people, if you can find your collarbone
Mm-hmm.
point, which is right
Mm-hmm.
here, like even if you just tap
Mm-hmm.
that, you can just start to feel some kind of connection
Yes.
to your body.
Yes.
And so just tapping that and breathing through it
Mm-hmm.
and saying, even just saying the negative stuff, like saying,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I'm in debt and it feels
Mm-hmm.
awful. If you did that for a minute, you would feel completely different.
Right.
So just start to
Amazing.
experience a bit of a physical release,
Mm.
because you've got to find a way to get these
True.
emotions
Mm-hmm.
out, and just trying to tell yourself to snap out of it is not going to
Yes.
cut it. So that's
Exactly.
sort of a little
Mm-hmm.
tip to get out of it. And then look, the third step is about taking the
Mm-hmm.
practical action. So it's then about setting up a plan, like
Mm.
a repayment
Yes.
plan. And you know, one good way to do that, like there are different ways
Yes.
you can do it. Like there's not a one size fits all
Mm-hmm.
strategy. You know, one thing you can do immediately is just to say, I'm no longer using my
Yeah.
credit card.
Yeah.
Like
It
it's
could be.
cash only going
Exactly.
forward, just everything, you know, straight out of my
Mm-hmm.
bank account. Until I've dealt with this problem, I'm not to
Totally.
spend another cent. And some people go as far as, I know people used to say, cut up your
Yeah.
credit cards, but I guess in the online space,
Yeah.
that, you
Exactly.
know, sort of doesn't really apply, but you know, you can block your access to your credit card
Yeah.
number so that
Exactly.
you don't use it again and only repay back.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to get into the practical strategies, and you know, it's things like saying, well, I'm going to make a minimum commitment that I'm going to repay
Exactly.
each
Mm-hmm.
month, and whether you set that up as an automatic
Mm-hmm.
payment, like you just start to get into the
Yes.
practicality
An
of it.
action of
But
it.
I think it's
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
yes, the action,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But I think, you know, the reason I had that as step 3 is because even though that's the logical way you're going
Yes.
to get out of it, like my, you know, firm belief and my
Mm-hmm.
observation and my own experience is that unless you're also dealing with those crippling emotions around it,
Totally.
step 3 is just a temporary measure. And
Exactly.
so you've got to do them hand in
Mm-hmm.
hand and stop beating yourself
Mm-hmm.
up, have that
Mm-hmm.
compassion, and allow yourself to actually carry out these actions. And then
Awesome.
you'll see that they'll be long lasting.
Absolutely. So just to wrap up for those who just joined us. Hello, Inaya. Thank you for joining. Ismail, thank you for joining. The first step is that to really acknowledge that there is an issue here or that you're in debt. Just acknowledge that, not making yourself wrong, bad, or anything like that. Just acknowledging, okay, there's something going on here. I have a debt that I want to deal with. And then the second part is to actually deal with the emotion part. Because if that guilt,
Yes.
shame, embarrassment, fear is still happening, even when we go to step 3, which is the action, strategies, plan, and all that, it's not going to work as effectively until you kind of deal with the emotion. So that's awesome, Caroline. And for those of you watching, thank you for watching. And Caroline, we have something special to make an announcement with, right, today?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
We
we
do.
do. Are you guys ready? Hi, Carlota. Thank you for joining. So, this is going to come like a double surprise to you all, because you're totally not going to be expecting this. And neither did we. But hey, we come up like for what's possible,
yeah.
right? And coming from the world of abundance and making the difference to people. So here's the thing. Caroline and I, we are going to be offering a free training on the Money Success Blueprint. The Money Success Blueprint happening, the training happening this Friday, right, Caroline? So happening this Friday for me
correct.
at 1 o'clock PST, which is the same time as you're watching it. And for Caroline, it's going to be at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this is a free training.
On Saturday.
Yes, on Saturdays. Thank you, Caroline. On Saturday.
Yes, because Australia's ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. So on Saturday. And the reason for this is that, like what we have discussed, even if you have amazing strategies going on in your business and your life, but if your money blueprint is out because you're being controlled by these emotions of whatever it is, worthiness, shame, guilt, fear, it's going to be very hard for them to have massive success. And you really want to kick in 2019 high up, so much higher than where you are before. So Caroline and I, we personally invite each and every one of you to join us. If you're interested, just send me a personal message or Caroline a personal message, and I will bring you in to the space of the secret group. of where it is happening. So thank you. Make sure you guys tune in. It's really is an opportunity, and we will also be offering them something extra special too, right, Caroline? When they're joining.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
Definitely. So we're going to give you some real
Mhm.
gems, and you know, you're going to get double the value because you're going to get the best of my stuff and the best of Izdihar as well.
Exactly. Never happened before in the space of consulting. Never happened before when we have two, like power girls, what you call it, power girls, right? Kick-ass, badass power people giving to you so much value. And we will also be offering you an opportunity, a fabulous opportunity to join our 7-day Money Blueprint Bootcamp. 7-day Money Blueprint Bootcamp just in time to kick off 2019. Killer 2019 like you've never had before. So thank you for joining me.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Caroline. Woohoo! Like, is it time to do
My
it,
pleasure.
right? Is it time for you to sing?
Oh, yes.
This is what, okay, we'll probably do that in the training. We'll probably have to practice a little bit.
Yes, we'll do it in the training.
We're going to practice
okay.
how do
yeah.
it.
So you have
exactly.
to join
you
the
have
training.
To join the training if you want to hear Caroline sing. And I will be, doing stuff behind to support her. Like I can play the tambourine. I've got a tambourine from my daughter.
Backup dancer.
Oh dear God, backup dancer. Definitely tambourine. Count me in for tambourine. My daughter has that tambourine. Thank you so much for Caroline. It's been amazing. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, Izdihar.
And I will start to be I'm sending out messages, not messages, I was going to start inviting you in to amazing training. That's something you do not want to miss. You do not want to miss on that. Bye, Caroline. Have a fantastic day and may peace be upon you. Bye-bye.
You too.